Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
The Toronto Blue Jays offseason just got a whole lot more interesting. And trust me when I say nobody saw this coming. Just when everyone thought Ross Atkins and the front office were done making moves after landing Dylan Cease, Cody Ponce, and Tyler Rogers, a bombshell report has emerged that's sending shockwaves through Blue Jays Nation. We're talking about a potential signing that could completely reshape this roster, and it's got fans absolutely split right down the middle. Some are calling it genius. Others are screaming that it makes absolutely zero sense. But one thing's for certain, this is the kind of move that could define the entire 2026 season before it even starts. Let's get right into it because this story is developing fast and the implications are massive. Ken Rosenthal, one of the most plugged-in insiders in baseball, just dropped a report that has the Blue Jays still actively exploring the starting pitching market. Now, I know what you're thinking. Starting pitching? Didn't they just address that with Cease? Don't they have like 6 starters already? Yes, and yes, but here's where it gets wild. The name being linked to Toronto is none other than Framber Valdez, the Houston Astros lefty, who's been one of the most consistent pitchers in baseball over the last 4 years. And before you dismiss this as just another rumor, understand that the Blue Jays already met with Valdez back in November at the general manager's meetings. Ben Nicholson-Smith confirmed there was mutual interest between both sides even before the Dylan Cease trade went down. Now let's pump the brakes for just a second and talk about what makes this so absolutely fascinating. Framber Valdez isn't just any starting pitcher on the market. This guy's the only pitcher in Major League Baseball with at least 12 games of sub-4 ERA ball in each of the last 4 seasons. Read that again, 4 consecutive years of elite consistency. He's averaging nearly 200 innings per season, which in today's game, where starting pitchers are treated like fine china, is basically superhuman. He's a workhorse. He's a ground ball machine. He pitches to contact and eats innings like they're going out of style. Plus, and this is huge for the Blue Jays, he's a lefty. Toronto's rotation is absolutely stacked with right-handed pitching. Kevin Gausman, Jose Barrios, Bowden Francis, Chris Bassett when he was there. Now you've got Dylan Cease and Alek Manoah potentially returning. It's a right-handed party. Valdez would provide that left-handed balance that every successful rotation needs. But here's where things get complicated, and I mean really complicated. The Blue Jays already have an abundance of starting pitchers. You've got Dylan Cease, who they just traded for and is going to be a cornerstone of this staff. You've got Kevin Gausman, who's been their ace. Jose Barrios is under contract. Bowden Francis emerged as a legitimate weapon last season. Alek Manoah is trying to find his way back. Yariel Rodriguez is in the mix. Cody Ponce just signed. And then there's the Shane Bieber situation because while his availability for opening day is uncertain following Tommy John surgery, he's still technically on the roster when healthy. So what on earth would the Blue Jays do with another frontline starter? This is where Ross Atkins might be getting creative, and I mean really creative. The scenario that's starting to emerge, and stay with me here because this is where it gets spicy, is that signing Framber Valdez could actually be move number 1 in a larger chess game. Think about it. If the Blue Jays bring in Valdez, suddenly they have the kind of pitching depth that becomes a tradable asset. You could package Jose Barrios, who's got name recognition and has been solid if unspectacular, with another piece to upgrade a different area of need. The outfield, for instance, has been a black hole of production for Toronto. Imagine packaging Barrios with someone like Nathan Lukes, or even, and this is controversial, Anthony Santander, who they just signed, to land a legitimate impact bat. The St. Louis Cardinals are reportedly shopping infielder and outfielder Brendan Donovan, who can literally play every position on the field and would be a massive upgrade. If you're the Cardinals and you need starting pitching, a package built around Barrios suddenly becomes very attractive. Now, before the comment section explodes, let me address the elephant in the room. Framber Valdez has some serious baggage. If you don't know the story, Valdez made headlines for all the wrong reasons when he intentionally threw at his own catcher during a game. It was one of the most bizarre and unprofessional moments in recent baseball memory, and it raised massive red flags about his character and his ability to be a good teammate. That's not something you just sweep under the rug. Chemistry matters in baseball, and bringing in a guy with that kind of history into a clubhouse could be a disaster. The Blue Jays already dealt with clubhouse drama in recent years, and the last thing they need is another volatile personality causing problems. So, yes, the off-field concerns are real and they're significant. Any evaluation of Valdez has to account for whether he's someone you actually want around your young players and in your culture. But let's talk pure baseball for a minute, because the on-field case is compelling. Valdez posted a sub 3.75 ERA in each of the last 3 seasons. He's been remarkably durable in an era where starting pitchers are breaking down left and right. His sinker generates weak contact and ground balls by the truckload, which plays beautifully in front of Bo Bichette and the Blue Jays' infield defense. He's also a proven playoff performer, having been a key part of Houston's rotation during their championship runs. If you're trying to build a team that can compete with the New York Yankees and Baltimore Orioles in the AL East, having a pitcher like Valdez, who's been there and done that in October, is invaluable. The postseason experience alone might justify taking the risk. Ken Rosenthal's report specifically mentioned that while several teams are looking for starting pitching, the Baltimore Orioles are the front runners for Valdez. That makes total sense. Baltimore has been aggressive this offseason, trying to capitalize on their young core, and adding a veteran lefty starter would be a massive statement. But the fact that Rosenthal also name-dropped the Blue Jays as still exploring options tells you that Toronto hasn't closed the door on making another splash. And here's the kicker. If the Blue Jays are still in the mix, it's almost certainly for Valdez specifically, because what other starting pitcher on the market right now makes sense for them? The lower tier guys don't move the needle. The Blue Jays aren't going to sign a 5th starter type when they already have depth. If they're making a move, it's for impact, and Valdez is the only name left that fits that description. There's another angle here that's getting overlooked. Signing Framber Valdez means losing 2 more draft picks because he's attached to a qualifying offer. That's not nothing. The Blue Jays have already surrendered picks in other moves, and giving up more future assets is always a risk. But here's the counter argument. This front office is clearly in win-now mode. They traded for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette's prime years. They brought in Dylan Cease. They've been active in free agency. Waiting around and hoping prospects develop isn't the strategy anymore. If you truly believe you can compete for a World Series in the next 2 to 3 years, draft picks become less important than proven major league talent. It's a calculated gamble, but it's one that winning teams make all the time. Now let's address what some fans are saying, and these are valid concerns. A lot of people are asking why the Blue Jays would invest more money and assets into starting pitching when the real holes on this roster are in the outfield and potentially at designated hitter. Why not use that money to sign Cody Bellinger, who was available before he re-signed with the Cubs? Why not go after a proven bat instead of adding a 6th or 7th starting pitcher? These are fair questions. The offense has been the bigger issue for Toronto over the last couple seasons. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. can't do it all by himself. George Springer is getting older and dealing with injuries. The outfield has been a rotating cast of replacement-level players. Adding Valdez doesn't directly address any of that. But here's where the strategy might actually be brilliant. If you sign Valdez and then flip 1 or 2 pitchers in a trade for offensive help, you've essentially used the pitching market to upgrade your offense. It's a roundabout way of doing things, but it could work. The trade market for impact bats has been thin. Most of the teams with surplus offensive talent aren't looking to move it, but teams always need pitching, and if you suddenly have an embarrassment of riches on the mound, you can leverage that into getting the hitters you need. It's creative roster construction, and it's exactly the kind of outside-the-box thinking that could separate a good front office from a great one. And there's also the insurance factor here that nobody's really talking about. Shane Bieber's Tommy John recovery is going exactly as planned, but there's always risk when a pitcher is coming back from that surgery. What if he's not ready for opening day? What if he struggles when he does return? What if there's a setback? Alek Manoah showed flashes last year, but also showed he's not back to being the dominant force he was in 2022. Having Framber Valdez in the fold gives the Blue Jays a safety net. If Bieber or Manoah struggle or get hurt, you're not scrambling to find innings. You've got a proven veteran who can slot right in and give you 200 quality innings. That kind of depth is what championship teams are built on. Let's also talk about what else is happening around the Blue Jays universe, because there's been a flurry of activity in the last few days. The team has extended spring training invites to a bunch of interesting names. Yariel Rodriguez is getting another look, which makes sense given his upside. Gage Stanifer, a prospect with some intrigue, is in the mix. But the real story here is Yehender Paniagua, the pitching prospect who was nearly lost in the Rule 5 draft but elected to re-sign with Toronto as a minor league free agent. This kid has serious stuff, and keeping him in the organization is a quiet but important win. Depth matters, and Paniagua could be a call-up option if injuries strike during the season. Meanwhile, across Major League Baseball, the trade rumors are heating up. The Boston Red Sox are reportedly in talks for an infielder, with Isaac Paredes and Brendan Donovan on their radar. That Donovan rumor is particularly interesting for Blue Jays fans because he's exactly the kind of versatile, high-contact player that would fit perfectly in Toronto. He played 264 innings at second base, 189 at third, and split time in the outfield last season. Literally played every position at some point in his career. If the Cardinals are shopping and looking for pitching, the Blue Jays should absolutely be in those conversations. A Donovan acquisition would solve multiple problems at once. The Detroit Tigers, meanwhile, are holding firm on Tarek Skubal, and rightfully so. John Heyman reported that both the Yankees and Mets quickly realized they had no chance of landing him because Detroit's asking price is astronomical. Skubal is one of the best young pitchers in baseball, and the Tigers aren't trading him unless someone blows them away. That's probably smart on their part, but it also shows you how valuable elite starting pitching is right now. Every contender wants it, and there's not nearly enough to go around. Which brings us back to Framber Valdez and why the Blue Jays might be willing to get weird with their roster construction to land him. Here's the bottom line, and this is what makes this whole situation so fascinating. The Blue Jays are at a crossroads. They can play it safe, roll with the roster they have, hope everything breaks right, and compete for a wild card spot, or they can get aggressive, make a bold move that seems unconventional on the surface, and position themselves to be a legitimate threat in the American League. Signing Framber Valdez falls into that second category. Yes, it's risky. Yes, there are character concerns. Yes, they already have plenty of starting pitching. But if Ross Atkins can turn that pitching depth into offensive upgrades via trade, suddenly the whole plan makes sense. You'd have an elite rotation anchored by Cease, Gaussman, and Valdez. You'd have the flexibility to move pieces around, and you'd have a roster built to win right now while Guerrero and Bichette are still in their prime. Do I think this is the most likely outcome? Honestly, probably not. The Orioles are the favorites to land Valdez, and there's a good chance the Blue Jays end up standing pat and riding with what they've got. But the fact that Ken Rosenthal is still linking Toronto to the starting pitching market, combined with the previous reports of mutual interest with Valdez, tells you that something is brewing. This front office isn't done exploring every possible avenue to get better, and that's exactly the kind of aggressiveness that fans should want to see. Too many teams in baseball are content to be mediocre. The Blue Jays are trying to be great, and sometimes that requires taking risks that don't make sense to everyone. Spring training is right around the corner, and the next few weeks could be absolutely wild. Will the Blue Jays actually pull the trigger on Framber Valdez? Will they make a trade to clear payroll and roster space? Will Brendan Donovan or another impact bat end up in Toronto? We're about to find out. And I'll be here every step of the way, breaking down every move, every rumor, and every development as this offseason reaches its conclusion. So what do you think? Should the Blue Jays go all in on Framber Valdez, even with the character concerns and the roster logjam? Or is this a case of overthinking things when they should be focused on adding offense? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because I want to hear from you. Are you Team Valdez or Team Stay Away? Let's get a debate going. And if you enjoyed this breakdown and want to stay on top of every Blue Jays update as we head into spring training, smash that like button and hit subscribe.
Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.